Welcome back to the Night Shift, your safe space. We're talking about UFOs, UAPs, NHI, disclosure, and all the rest of it. David Grusch and Dr. Phil. Who are you going to call? David Grusch did an interview with Dr. Phil, and in 1 hour moved the needle, I think, on disclosure farther than it's moved in the last 3 years. And I think you'll agree. If you've already watched this, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen this one yet, we're going to get into it and look at some clips from that interview. And Bobby Bigelow, Bobby Schmigelow, did an interview with George Knapp for the second episode of the apparently new thing now, Bigelow Aerospace Podcast, episode 2. Who knew? Which I talked about yesterday. And in that interview, he makes some pretty shocking claims, and he says that he can prove that consciousness survives physical death, and that is actually the kind of the mystery at the whole bottom of the UFO situation. So it's a complicated week. We got a lot to talk about. Got our regular panel with us today. Returning champion Pavel is with us from Psicoactivo. How you doing, Pavel?
Hi. How was your week, guys?
My week is
wild. It's getting better.
Getting better.
I'm glad to hear.
Having said that, when the moment I pressed play on the intro, I could hear this weird alert in the background. And Clint, I thought you were doing some sort of bit, because it sounded a bit like please stand by for an emergency broadcast kind of thing. And it was actually my phone. I will. Yeah. So the UK, if anybody doesn't know, it's currently on fire, and this is the first time I've ever got an actual government alert.
Whoa!
Straight to my phone.
We get those all the time here because of flooding when it's raining.
Yeah. I mean, nothing interesting ever happens in the UK, and here we are. We're just on fire now. But yeah, crazy. It took me so long to figure out what was going on.
It's anyway. So weird when you just said that. It's so weird to think that 25, 30 years ago, they were in the future, everything will be on fire all the time. And people were like, no way. Come on. You're out of your mind. That is wild. Unfortunately, Dan Cleary, I teased people yesterday. I said Dan Cleary might be with us, but he's not. He's in Thailand shooting a movie with Chow Yun-fat, but he assures us that he's going to be back next week.
He has sent us a video. I haven't watched it, and I don't know when to play it either, but we could
play
it.
We can just play it now, if that's okay.
Well, yeah.
Is it too hot for TV?
No. I think it's an I Miss You video.
A heartfelt video. Yeah.
Let's check it out. Here we go.
Hello, Doomers, and greetings from beautiful Asheville, North Carolina. Clint, Pavel, Xander, I miss you guys so much. So much to talk about. The Grusch stuff is amazing. I wish I was there with you guys today to really dig into the stuff. Bigelow and all the... What a time to be alive. And Doomers, I miss you all, and I will be back as soon as possible when this goddamn tour is over, which just started today. So I'll get in when I can, and keep up the fight. Hell yeah, man. Bye, guys. Love you.
Love you
What
too.
A guy.
He's looking healthy. He's looking healthy.
We miss you too, Dan. We miss
fighting crime on stage. That's what it does to you.
Let's give Dan a shout out in the chat, everybody. Let him know you miss him. He's probably watching.
We do genuinely. We really do miss him.
Yeah.
He's the fourth wheel. We're just the tricycle right now.
You know, we talk about it a lot, and it's so corny to hear myself say it, but it is true that I've made some of the coolest and best friends that I've had in a long time in this community, just since starting this channel and getting to know you guys. And it's, I think, has a lot to do with how insane these developments are getting, and how I'm just struck by how when I started, it was really still unclear what was going to happen and which direction this was going to go. And and how intense it might get. It could just be a blip, and maybe then, in a year we wouldn't be talking about disclosure anymore. But it turns out it's getting pretty hot in here, and it is really cool to have some great people to be gathering around the campfire with to watch all of this shit go down. I don't know how you feel, but
I'm glad
It's-
it's with you guys. This is fun. It has
It's
been fun
nice
for years
to.
now.
I just think it's nice to share the interest as well, because by the time this stuff hits the mainstream news in a proper way, which is probably going to be like 2 days before they actually make some sort of acknowledgement. That will be the first time anybody really ever talks about it on a mass scale, in the way that everyone's talking about it. But this build-up, for me, is really, really important. The whole build-up is like, I'm under the impression at this point that whatever is announced, we will already know, like us and this community. But the rest of the world won't, and it will be up to us and this community to really sort of, in a way, answer some of the questions that the government just won't have time to answer. Because we will be able to infer a lot by whatever announcement is eventually made, I think. And we'll also be able to say what was inaccurate, because that will be incredibly important.
Yep, it will be. And well, as I'm sorry for the dogs in the background, Pachita is kind of, we actually just neutered her, and she's kind of loopy, so it gets a little rowdy. I don't know if you guys noticed, but like shit just keeps piling up and ramping up. What do you guys think about what's been happening over the last couple of days, especially the Grusch interview? I think that's the most important, but also Bigelow had some really great nuggets. And yeah, happy to be sharing this with all of you.
And just before that, it's because it's coming so fast now. Dylan Borland's amazing interview on American Alchemy with Jesse Michaels, that is outstanding. It's like a 3.5 hour sit down. So much information there. And Matt Brown's Judicial Watch interview not long before that is outstanding. I mean, there are hours of material every week with really, really good, reliable people giving us very solid information. And we're going to take a look at some of what David Grusch has to say in this Dr. Phil interview, which is going to blow your mind. But the amount of information that we're getting now at the speed we're getting it is unfathomable just a few years ago. And it's like a flood. The Bigelow interview was interesting because in that interview, he's talking a lot about OSAP and what that was all about and how it's working. And he explains what Bigelow Aerospace actually brought to the table that made that deal for exchanging material with Lockheed Martin work for them. Like, what he kind of gets into that. So we're starting to get a peek behind the curtain from the actual players involved that have skin in the game. And then from the whistleblower level, the stuff that David Grusch had to say in this interview, Pavel, you and I were just briefly talking about this before we went live. It seems like it's landing like a direct response to this whole Lou Elizondo situation that's going on. And it's something that people in the community have been asking for, is what is David Grusch going to do next?
I've been asking for it personally, because I thought that when that old thing went down with Gerb and Lou, it was necessary for Grusch to do something substantial, not necessarily go out and defend Gerb specifically. I think that a good response is to just attack with data and with facts and with actions. And I think this is what Grusch started doing yesterday. And I don't think that it's going to be the only thing that we get from Grusch between now and the midterms, because that's an important factor that everybody should consider. People are going against the clock right now because of the midterms, and they're just going to drop everything they have between right now and the start of the midterms because they don't know what's going to happen after.
Yeah, there was definitely a sense of urgency in what he had to say and the way that he phrased it. And Dave, if you're watching, we see you. Like we get it. He is blinking Morse code basically throughout all of this. Like this guy is communicating so much between the lines, and he's letting us know there's more to come. And I can't explain it any other way. You have to watch it. We'll look at a clip in just a second. But Dr. Phil, I have to say, as much as I'm not a Dr. Phil guy, but Dr. Phil does a really great job of navigating this material for an audience of people who are not up to speed in a way that like I sent it to my dad. I was like, you need to watch this. And this is really, this lays it all out. And he talks about, and what maybe the first clip we can start with is the psychological impact of disclosure. And he gets into some detail about why that's going to be a huge issue. And I hadn't thought about it with this context. So Dr. Phil,
yeah,
tip of the hat.
It was good to hear him expand on the need for bolstering like mental health services and stuff.
There we go.
Yeah.
Do you want to finish your thought? I don't want to cut you off.
No. I think it's good to play it first.
Okay.
Are using unethical means to discredit what you're saying. And, you know, you think back to fifth grade, if you're in an argument with somebody and they're losing the argument, what do? They start attacking your character, or your mother wears army boots. You know, they start going after anything except the topic because they're losing on the topic. So it's, you know, it's
Let me skip it.
the most expensive picture saved it.
Okay, here we go.
Bottom line, you say that you have hard evidence, you have seen documentation, and in fact, pictures of what? Tell us what, and you've testified about this, so tell us exactly what it is that you, because listen, I've just written an op-ed piece, and I'm happy to send it to you. It'll come out in the next day or so. I've written several about it so far, and I think the title of it is Disclosure with a question mark behind it, because it seems to me that it's form without substance so far. And my interest in this has always been, if there is something that is going to come out that involves aircraft not of this earth and intelligent non-human life forms, that's going to have a significant impact, certainly on a portion of our population, that could be negative for them. It could cause some people to have a serious psychological reaction, and that we need to be prepared for that. And the American Psychological Association, Psychiatric Association, medical associations all need to be planning in advance, because all of our resources as of today are fully deployed, because particularly our young people are experiencing the highest levels of anxiety, depression, loneliness since records have been kept. So, I mean, we don't have a lot of undistributed resources right now. And if we're going to have a huge uptick of even 5 or 10% of the population that has an abreaction to these sort of things, we need to plan for that and be there to support these folks. We need to make sure that elderly people aren't scammed on the internet with people saying you need to sell everything and we'll bury a school bus for you in the mountains to create a bunker so you can be safe from this invasion of aliens, et cetera. We need to be prepared to support our society if people feel like human exceptionalism doesn't hold true. The evangelical community can have a problem in what their belief systems have been. A lot of things can happen from a psychosocial standpoint, and I take that very seriously. So I think we can handle it. I think people deserve to know. I think they can handle it. I think we need to be responsible in helping them. And you've seen things that would suggest that these kind of preparations need to be made. Not that there's a panic, but we just need to be prepared. So what is it that you have told people that you know And
Okay, I'm going to stop there because the second half of this is even better. But yeah, the mental health angle, that's important.
And I get the difference. Sorry, Sander.
Go ahead.
I get the difference of opinion when it comes to Dr. Phil, because the U.S. is currently in a like a two-phase sort of monster when it comes to politics, right? And it's very divided. And whenever somebody from the other side tries to do something, they get instantly attacked. But for me, just listening to what Dr. Phil said right there, that's a perfectly reasonable argument, I think. Whether he's left, right, MAGA, whatever he is, that people want to go at him for, it's just a reasonable thing. I don't know if you guys agree there.
I totally agree. Some things are just bigger and more important than politics. This is one of those things. And this is something I've said forever. Since I started this channel, I've always said this. It's going to take everybody. It's going to take all hands on deck to figure this out. It's going to take, people who are like Dr. Phil, people who are, it's going to take nerds and it's going to take squares and hippies, and it's going to take everybody. Artists, engineers, biologists, anthropologists, psychologists, regular people. It's going to be a process. And what he describes next is the reason why it's going to be pretty intense. And I think that is going to be interesting to the people who haven't seen this. But I agree. Yeah, you have to. Before we
show the rest, I don't know what lies behind the door at the end of the day. It could be a really horrible, dark truth. We've tried to imagine the horrible truth before, the kind of truth that makes, is it Ford cry after being briefed on Project Aquarius and stuff. But we've vast amounts of cultures throughout human history have had to face ontological shock again and again and again, and every time we've been fine. And right now, everyone that claims to know something far more deep than we currently know, Grusch included, Eric Davis included, they're fine. The people inside the legacy programs are fine. Lou Elizondo, legacy or not, appears to be fine. Lou Elizondo is still like doing a tour and things like that, of doing a speaking tour and things, and he's getting on with life. He doesn't believe, like, if Lou Elizondo was the kind of guy that thinks the world's going to end in a week, would he be doing this kind of thing that he's doing? I don't think he would. He'd be spending time with his family and things like that.
He certainly wouldn't have a bar.
Yeah. So I think, and as I said last week as well, there was a study that was done that indicated heavily that everybody thinks, by and large, most people think that they would be fine, but everyone else wouldn't be. That's just the way that most people think about things. And I think we'd rip the Band-Aid off and realize there was actually just nothing underneath it anyway. There's something there. Maybe a scar from the past, but it's not going to hurt us in the future. I think that's probably the way we need to look at it. And I agree with Dr. Phil here that we should put those services in place for the people that are going to struggle. But I don't think it's even going to be 5%.
But wait, I do want to ask something about that, because there's a part in the interview where, and we can play it a little later, but where essentially he says that he knew about an alleged interrogation that happened with one of these beings, alluding to it, the being captive, right? So
detainment.
Yeah. So, scars from the past, that doesn't seem so distant in the past. I don't know if it's ongoing or something, and if that is the case, what would like these other intelligences think about us who are doing this, if in fact we are?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm thinking about scars that would hurt us on a foundational level. Like
Okay.
for example, like finding out all of the Epstein stuff, in my opinion, doesn't scar humanity. It doesn't scar what it means to be a human. And that's important because...
How do you know that for sure, though?
Well, so far it doesn't appear to have. Like, I don't think differently of humanity because of what happened with Epstein, and it's likely I don't think I'd think differently of humanity if I found out, for example, that we were engineered by another species, or even that we were in some strange simulation. It wouldn't make me think of humanity any differently. That's not to say other people wouldn't, and they wouldn't find it shocking, but the degree with which people would find it shocking, I think perhaps we should take it seriously. We should over-egg the pudding intentionally, just in case, but I think what we will find is that people will just kind of be like, that's kind of cool. It explains a lot. I think a lot of people will say something like that. I think I guess the only truly ontological stuff would be, we'd be getting into like World War II, like Aryan stuff that is horrible to think about, and the way that kind of story could have been tied into the way like Nordics were interpreted. That could have been, and maybe that carried over with Project Paperclip into American intelligence community. That puts a very dark stain, incredibly dark stain on American institutions in intelligence especially, but it still wouldn't make me think any differently of humanity. Wouldn't make me feel worse about myself. It'd make me like kind of shocked at the American government, but
yeah. And they're
knows?
the ones keeping the most secrets. I wonder why. Does it seem like they still have like the, so to speak, the magic wand or to call the shots amongst nations? That still puzzles me, because if this is true, if any of this is true, I don't think the US are the only ones keeping evidence. I think many countries have some sort of material evidence, or even further than that, that puzzles me still.
One of the things that he does a great job of articulating in this interview is the weirdness of the cabal that seems to be in charge of managing this program, and how hidden it really is inside of all of these, like this sort of, what is it, the Matryoshka doll sort of method of just wrapping a project inside of another project and burying it inside of an organization that's owned by some other weird entity and managed by bureaucrats that are just hidden throughout the systems of government. And it's so strange. It reads almost, it landed to me almost like not a breakaway civilization per se, but a parallel deep state government operating under its own accord that is really, really desperately trying to hold on to whatever it can hold on to at this point.
And I believe they are desperately still trying to hold on. Like, I know we're seeing the needle move forward, but I think that's entirely a consequence of the work of people like Grusch and whistleblowers. I think whistleblowers are greatly empowered right now, and they should strike while the candle's hot. Like, this is the time.
If you have the evidence, if you have the evidence, you will have the upper hand. It's as simple as that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They make the case in here that it's time for Donald Trump to do this thing, and they really make the case that this would be a great way out of the situation that he's in. And this is a once in a lifetime, once in a century, once in a forever moment. And he speaks directly to Stephen Miller in this interview and says, like, hey, you need to get this on your radar, put this higher on your priority list. I want to show this next half of what he says, because where he goes next with this is really pretty awesome. And it's what we've been wanting to see.
That people are entitled to know.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's interesting that I think HHS and Bobby Kennedy, assuming Trump releases all the information, is going to, play a big role to include there's a administration for strategic preparedness readiness called ASPR that would need to be involved as well to coordinate that response. So I totally agree with you. There's kind of an undervalued fact that you're going to have this behavioral health and public health communication strategy. So in terms of what my exposure was, I had folks from the retrieval program. I'll call it exfiltrate audiovisual evidence for me to see, both video and photos, and that was audiovisual evidence of the retrieved craft, some of the dead cadavers that were recovered. Call it the pilots, as I said in my interview with Nancy Mace, and of course I interviewed a ton of subjects all the way up to the cabinet White House level that had close personal participation in this subject. And of course, because I wasn't hands-on, so to speak, and saw this in person, I brought a lot of those people to the Intelligence Community Inspector General under the Biden administration, so they can hear it from the horse's mouth. They can get information on the locations of where this is being held, where the archives facilities are, where they hold all the program records, etc. And of course, this complaint was considered credible and urgent. Admiral Haynes was forced to send it to the Senate and House Intelligence Committees in summer 2022. And then I subsequently provided 11.5 hours of classified testimony to the Senate and House Intelligence Committees. Unfortunately, from what I understand, there was a little bit of fear in those committees, especially in the Senate, and they didn't open up some full field investigation. I think Mark Warner and Marco Rubio were a little nervous to really up the ante with the deep state that they were tackling. That's probably a longer discussion. And then, of course, the ICIG investigated it. And from what I understand, back channeled to me unofficially is Jake Sullivan in White House General Counsel Office basically told Tom Monheim, who was the Inspector General for the intelligence community under Biden, and his staff to stop. And they realized they were bumping into White House classified programs, something called special access programs. And eventually they were told to stop, from what I understand. And I would love for Mr. Monheim and Jake Sullivan, who's been in many interesting meetings about this subject. So I'd be curious what Mr. Sullivan has to say for himself when he was the National Security Advisor in his history on this topic. So once again, I hope Secretary Rubio is helping Stephen Miller at the White House, because I'm hearing mixed messages about Stephen Miller's seriousness. And I hope he understands how this will impact President Trump's legacy if this is botched. I think the JFK files release, unfortunately, it was just released to the public. I think even as a former intel officer, I still haven't come to a conclusion. What happened to JFK? Did CIA and the mob kill him, or what? It wasn't curated. It wasn't, explained to us what all this means. And I think the same thing needs to happen with the UFO file drops. It needs to be done in a professional way that's consumable for the public.
Wow. There's a lot there.
Yep. Direct message to Stephen Miller. That was
Mm-hmm.
What I'm finding increasingly more encouraging from Grusch is that they've already attacked his credibility, and it almost, you could say it backfired almost, because the old trope of going to PTSD doesn't work anymore, because people understand PTSD and actually accept it at this point. We're all dealing with PTSD, but he's still an incredibly credible individual who is working actively with Congress, and the scope for him being mistaken is consistently getting narrower and narrower, because he's making bolder and bolder statements. So this was the first time I've heard him say, I've seen the craft, I've seen the bodies on video. Yes, fine.
Exfiltrated video, audio, visual evidence that he has, which means that's code for I've got the shit and I'm going to release it. If you don't do it first, I'm going to do it. That's what I hear.
The scope for misunderstanding is shrinking considerably. He's either, at this point, telling the truth, and what he sees, what he saw is the reality of what he's explaining it to be, or somehow he is still mistaken with that information and or being psyoped, or he's lying. And I wonder who really thinks that David Grusch is lying right now. Does anybody? I mean, do the skeptics really think David Grusch is lying? Because the skeptics have consistently been saying David Grusch is likely mistaken. Now, with the ever narrowing window for misunderstanding that Grusch is now developing, are they going to switch to him saying, no, he's lying? If they need to preserve their position, that's what they'll do next.
There are already people saying that, by the way. Already.
It doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter,
because he only has to be right once. He has to be right one time, and then they're done. It won't matter anymore. Who gives a shit? You know, we're going to be in a new world. You can see all of the biggest players in the space right now are getting their ducks in a row for the day after disclosure. They really, truly are. You can't miss it now. It's so obvious. It was the fucking Time magazine cover. The Dr. Phil thing is the most.
And why do you think he was on Dr. Phil? Was this interview even for us?
No.
What was it for? Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like the calls are all coming from inside the house. These are people who want out. There are people who want out. Well, I think there are a couple groups at play. There are people who want to maintain the secrecy, the legacy, people who want to hold on to whatever they've got. There are people who want out, and they just want a ticket out of this thing. They feel like they're in a hostage situation. They didn't sign up for this, but they've done some stuff they're not happy about. They just want papers, and they're out. And they'll tell you whatever. And then there are people who are willing to make a deal. And I think you're seeing those three groups maneuver into position. And the Dr. Phil stuff and the Avi Loeb stuff that's going on, and Bigelow having his own podcast now, all of this is about just this is the disclosure process. You're watching it. Mm-hmm. There may be an announcement, but that'll be a piece of it. That won't be the whole thing. This is what it's going to look like going forward.
Right
Dr.
now,
Phil is as mainstream as it gets, dude. There doesn't get any more mainstream than that.
I still see the file drops that the Department of War are giving as just trying to keep us quiet. Mm-hmm. Now, I think they know that they're prolonging the inevitable, and it's possibly not even the Department of War themselves, it's just the information they are being given. Like, at the end of the day, if you know, I know they mentioned specific video names that they wanted from, was it MITRE?
On the New York Post.
Yeah.
No. It was, they wanted them from AFOSI, from the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. Yeah.
Where was that correct from?
Oh, I'm queuing up another clip. Sorry.
Because that worked really well.
Correct. Need a soundboard.
So, at the end of the day, like, the legality of these programs is already in question. If they want to withhold a video, they're just not going to. They're just not going to listen, and they will just lie about the video not existing. As far as I'm concerned, that's just what they'll do.
Well, did you catch what he said about the archives? The archives, where the archives are stored, the archives with all the records on all this shit that go back as far as they go. And he also says elsewhere in this interview that they are destroying a lot of that information right now. But the fact that it exists at all should be, oh my God.
I think that's potentially what they're trying to stall for, is so that they can really try and position themselves into a place that doesn't incriminate them too much. And that, given the scope of the crime on the menu here, it might take a little while because I don't even know if they know how much crime they've committed at this point.
Our track record in this country of going after criminals in government and high-ranking civilians in corporate leadership is like fuck all. There's no one will go to jail. All these guys are going to walk. Everybody's going to be just fine. I don't think they have anything to worry about. And if anybody is at risk here, it's the whistleblowers who have no protection, and they are literally out twisting in the fucking wind.
One of the ones who is probably not going to go to jail is Dr. Eric Davis. James Fox released another recent video. If you guys want to play it, I left it in the private chat. It's just a few seconds.
Ooh.
But that's what caused the Grusch interview. That's what caused. That's the effect.
I've got it here, Clint.
I think more people are gonna keep doing this. I think. I don't know if Hal could like do his own video. Maybe Jacques. I don't know.
What do you think Carl Nell's doing? Look at who. I mean, look at who Carl Nell is. Carl Nell is, and then look at the public statements he's made. Go, look at Matthew Pines and his public statements. These guys, it's happening. We're in it.
Yep.
There it is. Right. That's this is Eric. So Eric Davis, did he drop this before the Grusch interview?
After,
right. Do you
This
think
was,
it was as a
last night.
consequence of?
I think so. Yeah.
I think so as well, given what he says specifically.
My name is Dr. Eric Davis. I'm an astrophysicist and a chief scientist in the U.S. defense intelligence industry.
And I like salad.
Unidentified anomalous phenomenon, UAP, for 30 years. I've seen classified and proprietary defense intelligence industry evidence that the American public and the world have a right to see. That included photographs and documentation of retrieved craft and alien bodies, but I'm prevented from publicly sharing this evidence because of the threat to my security clearances, employment, and the potential for civil or criminal penalties. Mr. President, with your signature, you could waive the SF-312 NDA to protect UAP whistleblowers like myself. I respectfully request that you take swift and decisive action, as the nature of UAP should not be kept deeply classified.
That's very specific on the NDA, right?
He was reading it from a teleprompter. That's saying something. It's a written, prepared statement that he wanted on tape for that purpose.
What do you think? So, I was asking Pavel before we went live. Do you think, based on the nature of what he just said, he said craft, and did he say bodies in that statement?
Yep.
He did. Do you think it's the same piece of evidence that he's seen, or do you think
circular
it's
reporting is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
I guess it's possible, but my argument when you asked me that was that if this stuff is real, there's a lot of people that have had contact with this, and it's not just happening in the US. I told you about this recent news that Arrow is actually now joint working with GRIT OVNI, which is the UFO investigation office from Uruguay in South America, and which is one of the oldest and the longest running in human history. And they've amassed a lot of evidence throughout the years that they're not sharing with the public either. Now Arrow is working with them. So I don't think, honestly, that if you're coming forward with information like this, you just have one source. That would be highly irresponsible. And if it's as serious as this is, I think that they're like looking at many different sources for different types of evidence.
You'd certainly hope so.
Grusch, he does say that. He says that he has multiple sources. He's got moles in different parts of the program that feed him information. By the time you're done watching this whole thing, if you pay attention to what he says, he basically describes a situation where he's being fed intelligence from people inside that want to get out.
Yep.
They're just trying to get out. And he's like on the outside. And this is a factional war. The disclosure legacy system is broken and it's falling apart. It's fragmenting, and the cracks are now showing, and we're seeing people coming through the cracks, and they're saying, this is what's behind this wall. Follow me and I'll show you. And by the end, he is literally saying, he's like, I can put you in a truck and we can go on a trip out west and I will show you where the shit is. He's just,
some
he
of
makes
it, they
that
can't
statement.
move.
Yes.
He says it's
He
too big
mentioned
to
that.
move.
Yeah.
Here, let's go to this next clip where he talks about what he's actually seen, and this will help people understand what's going on.
Have to be careful because some of this is still classified to a.
Just don't let me forget. I want to talk about him what he was talking about when he said wink, wink.
Yes.
That was, I thought, pretty wild. But anyway.
Yeah. We can go there next. We'll do that one.
Yeah, sure.
That was a great
your
moment.
adversaries intelligence reporting about what they thought was going on in the U.S. And I learned more from a particular peer adversary about what the U.S. was doing in terms of retrieval and reverse engineering of UAP than I learned from my own government officially until I started spelunking in different archives, talking to people that were able to provide me program documentation, etc. And then I had an individual that cleared me into a program that I could learn some of the signatures that we've learned that these craft emit and how the U.S. tracks it and how they hide the tracking of UAP within the national intelligence architecture in plain sight, kind of like what you were talking about in courts, where you would never know that was what it was actually designed to do because everything was buried and certain hardware and certain software processing was on the back end, and you would never know that certain things were designed to do so. And once again, that foreign intelligence reporting, the Defense Intelligence Agency has refused to release those classified documents to Congress. And I know Representative Burleson is likely going to pulse DIA leadership to get that. And once again, where are those documents in the tranches? I mean, I can sit on the top secret intelligence community network for about one day, and I can pull a ton of information like that, that's just low-hanging fruit that many people can access who have systems access in that system, and release a ton of more interesting stuff than you're seeing right now. So I really don't understand why the bureaucratic apparatus is resisting so hardly to getting this out there, besides some of the social, psychological, national security concerns, et cetera, that have been mentioned to presidents in the past that have been briefed. And it's really unfortunate. And I hope that Stephen Miller has the wherewithal and seriousness to break this open and enlist the help of certain other people like Devin Nunes, who's the chair of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board. And I think himself and his staff would be very helpful to assist too. And I'm certainly happy to assist in my own capacity if I ever got the call or summoned. I never want to go back to government full time. Obviously, I'm a professional staff member for Representative Burleson part time. But certainly they could, ring me up if they needed to, call me in to help solve this very, very quickly for the president, because I know who to call and what doors to knock on.
Well,
Damn, bro.
Oh God. Oh, he's applying for the job. He wants Lou's job.
There's two positions, not one, actually.
Or maybe, what if they were partners? Meet your new
There's-
partner.
There's two positions. The
This
UAP
guy-
SAR thing is not even a thing. It's just like an officer within the governance board, I believe, but within the National Security Council is where this is going to run from.
Mm.
And it's two positions. There's a scramble because people think that Lou already got one of those, which has been in the news for a while now. But, there's a lot of people that want the other position. And this is what we're not seeing. It's an inside war for everybody. Like, everybody wants to be there. Like, it's not just people pushing for Grusch to be there. Dr. Stephen Greer has been talking to a lot of people in Congress too.
Oh
He
my
also
God.
wants a place there. It's not just Lou. It's not just Grusch. It's more people. Yeah.
Is this
Everybody
all for
wants
the-
their
for
first
the
bite at the
UAP?
apple.
Is this for the UAP? Sorry, I had to say goodnight to my daughter. Is this for the UAP czar position?
Yeah. Which is not a thing really. It's from the National Security Council, but yeah, it is.
I want to go one more clip where he talks about cadavers and the pilots, just because this is what he's saying. He got this audio visual evidence was exfiltrated and given to him. This is what he's talking about. Here we go.
as well. You've seen the cadavers.
Yeah. Some of the craft we've assessed that are likely drones, and some of the craft that we've recovered, it is true in some of the lore in the public space, we've recovered vehicles that were empty and the pilots were not there. That actually is a true historical statement. But yes, some of it was piloted, and I always find, even though it is my reality, I always feel uncomfortable talking about that because it is such a ontologically shocking thing to talk about the pilots. But what do you know? They look just like what people have reported seeing, like credible witnesses. You look at the Ariel School event in 1994, where 80
snap.
school children in Zimbabwe saw what we would call in pop culture speak small gray aliens. exactly the way you think. And what do you know? Some of them look exactly as reported by credible observers that have nothing to gain and everything to lose by discussing their experience. And it even goes back to the work of John Mack at Harvard, who was a psychiatrist looking at people that have had these experiences with the phenomenon, and he deduced something is going on. This is not some psychosomatic thing or some mental health condition. And people over the eons have had these personal experiences with these things, and that is a sensitive subject that I know is still kind of stigmatized, unfortunately.
Right, of course. Have any of these pilots or occupants of these craft, to your knowledge, been taken alive?
Yes, and I know people who have had direct interactions in a detainment situation, which sounds very Star Trek and sounds very crazy, but it is true. And I talked to a former cabinet member about that, who directly worked the issue for a particular former vice president. You can guess which one. Darth Vader.
Oh, shit. Oh, my God. He just said detainment. He said they've got live ones in detainment.
Damn.
So Disclosure Day is a documentary?
He talked directly to someone who worked for Dick Cheney on this issue. Who confirmed
A cabinet member.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Cabinet in the UK is like
Rumsfeld. My money's on
Minister's...
Rumsfeld, bro.
Is it the same in the US? Is the cabinet in the US like the team that the president surrounds himself around with?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
It can be whoever they want it to be, but yeah. Rumsfeld would be interesting.
I mean, if you thought of like the villains of that cabinet back in the day, it was those two, right? It wasn't necessarily Bush. Bush seemed like more of a puppet in many ways. It was weird.
Yeah, Dick Cheney was in charge during the Bush administration, and I think that's been well established. Everybody pretty much agrees.
There's a movie about it.
Yeah, it was like no question. But if they have a live pilot that had been put in detainment, that sounds a lot like a J-Rod type situation. I'm just saying.
I wonder how many of those situations have happened. Because if there was one and there are many, and it's been 80 years, it's like.
So earlier, just before this clip, he's asked, how many craft have we recovered? And he goes, well, it's more than 25, less than 100.
But that only accounts for the accounting that is on the books, because the private contractors at some point, and we all know this is true, that the private contractors started doing their own crash retrievals.
Yes.
So who knows? We've probably got thousands at this point.
And other countries too. He wasn't accounting for other countries either. So
I want to know from the people in the chat, what do you guys think? Is this moving the needle for you yet? If you hadn't seen this and you're seeing these clips for the first time, what do you guys think about what you've seen so far? And we've got a few super chats we need to get to also.
Just quickly, this is, again, it's further narrowing of his scope for misunderstanding the situation, because how do you misunderstand somebody saying, I've had a conversation with a detained non-human intelligence? What kind of... So he's either being psyoped, he's lying, or he's telling the truth. So you have to... I think the skeptics really do have to jump from this. He's misunderstanding, he's misreading special access program material and framing it in a UAP reference and things like that. It's not that simple anymore, because he's plain as day.
He's also not just a regular Joe. Like, to fool a guy like him, you can't fuck with him. Like, he knows this game. He knows this system. All the people he knows and works with throughout his professional career are spooks. Like, that's your world. So, like, the idea that they're going to play him somehow, and he's not going to know what to look for and how to be prepared for that.
For what purpose?
I mean, if he was being psyoped, he was likely being psyoped by a cabinet member. That's what you just said, that he was being informed by a cabinet member. So,
Yeah,
it's insane. Like the guy, this is, I think it's monumental, and the fact that it's Dr. Phil and it's a couple of months away from very important political times, it was a big balls move, and I'm here for it. I really am here for it.
And it just jump started. It's not the only thing that is going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm getting the word that we have a response from Eric Burleson that's breaking. Let's see what Burleson had to say to this is a response to what Dave Grusch just said.
No,
yes?
not exactly. It's
Okay.
like a follow-up to a lot of the things that Grusch was talking about. But he in the interview, Grusch alluded to the White Sands activity that I've been reporting on for a few months. And Eric Burleson goes a little more into detail in a recent clip that he shared on his X account just a few minutes or an hour ago, something like that.
Let's see what he says here.
You had made a claim regarding this idea, this scenario in which the U.S. in the past may have tried to set up a perfect scenario to capture a UAP.
I was briefed on an event a little less than a year ago that happened in a Western military facility that kind of changed a lot for me. I approached this topic as a complete skeptic, but when I was briefed about this particular event, what they described is that they had created a scenario when looking back at all of the sightings and the events that had happened throughout the United States, they just thought, what are the common things that seem to draw these things in? And so they tried to imitate a lot of that at once. They went to a location where they had already had activity. They sent in people from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. They sent in the CIA, the FBI, officials from the Department of War, and they described encountering these glowing orbs. Basically just, they can hover statically. They can go from sitting static in the air to instantaneous acceleration. And we don't know what these things are. At least they tell me they don't know what they are. I think
Ooh. That's interesting. Is that, I wonder, the same thing as the dog whistle that they described?
So Grusch in the interview said that he was aware that there was activity going on in a secured airspace recently. And the reporting that I've been getting, I think that, and Ross also came out to practically say this, that Skywatcher and by extension Jake Barber were involved in that activity. And Grusch alluding to that, and now Burleson also talking about this a little more, makes me just more certain that Grusch and Barber have been working together on this for a while now, because there's a picture of them at the Esalen Institute from like 2024. And if they have been like seen publicly like that, I don't know, man. It just seems like that. And he also alluded to this telepathic communication that some of the people in the crash retrieval teams have been experiencing. And Jake Barber talked about that in detail in that interview. So I think that they're working together, and they have been for a while. And I know that some people are not going to like me saying that because a lot of people don't trust Jake Barber, but that's the feeling that I'm getting.
Android Paranormal says, Andrew Paranormal says, thanks for the super chat. Major news that Grusch said Jake Sullivan was the one who stopped the ICIG investigation into his testimony with 40 witnesses.
That's what you meant, Clint.
Yeah.
You told me.
That guy, Jake Sullivan, I think I've got his Wikipedia pulled up, but he looks like his resume is insane. I'll have to pull it back up and see if I could find it. But that was a great comment. That was very interesting. He names him specifically. And George Knapp also said Glenn Gaffney specifically was another name. This one's for you, Xander. The Android Paranormal again. Xander, 5.6% of people are diagnosed with a significant mental health disorder, schizophrenia, borderline personality, or bipolar. What's your response?
Cool. I guess if you're talking in terms of our ability to handle ontological shock, as I said, we've been through several in the past, and we have always had mental mental problems throughout society. There was a time, I don't know what century it was, I've forgotten at this point, where we were certain that the earth was the center of everything, and we were the rock that God's chosen few were living on. And then Copernicus came along and like basically proved that we're just one thing or of a lot of things orbiting something else. Something else is the center, was the specific truth there. And for Christianity at the time, that's big news. That was a realization that we are not the center of the universe. And we dealt with it pretty well. And there have been several. We know that the Earth isn't 6,000 years old anymore. That core, and the Bible adapts and religion adapts, and that's completely fine. And as I said, it's good to bolster these things in preparation for those ontological shocks. But I think we'll be fine, unless the truth really is as horrible as it could be in principle. But I don't think it is.
I think the boogeyman nature of whatever they don't want to talk about is, I think that's a smoke screen.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a smoke screen. I feel like it's like what you would tell your kid that, just don't look in there, don't go in there. There's a monster under the bridge. It's
the reality is it's just
a
mess in there. You don't want him to play in the cupboard because it's just a mess in there. You don't want him making the mess even worse.
I mean, and with the idea of people flipping out over disclosure, I think at this point, people are under so much fucking pressure anyway from everything else that's going on in the world that the disclosure would probably be the lowest thing on their list. It's the furthest thing from their day-to-day life. It hasn't affected them so far. And unless it's explained how it actually impacts regular people on a day-to-day basis, I don't see a lot of people reacting. It is what it is.
That is true.
I think it'll be good for us. I really do.
RockDoc4495 says Dr. Phil essentially said, do you know a location where the craft and cadavers are so we can take a camera crew there? Yeah, pretty much.
Grusch said, yeah, we can't.
Yeah, we can. I can take you there. Listen to this next clip. This is Grusch talking about telepathic communication, and it gets better and better as we go. Go here.
Detainment situation, which sounds very Star Trek and sounds very crazy, but it is true. And I talked to a former cabinet member about that, who directly worked the issue for a particular former vice president. You can guess which one. Darth Vader.
And were they able to communicate?
Yes. And it is true that some sort of consciousness communication, of course, people call it telepathy. I cannot begin to tell you how it works, but there is some sort of communication like that. And even friends of mine that were on retrievals felt that kind of communication as they approached the vehicle when they were doing cordoning it off, waiting for transport. How that works, what that means, I certainly don't know. I'm as curious as the average viewer on your show on how that works. And it does feel very Star Trek to me. I have no personal experience with anything like that that's outside of my normal, human experience. But that is indeed, what people have experienced in the government with these things. So.
Well, I'm learning about this as I go along, and I'm told that our nearest neighboring solar system is.
Here, we'll stop there. He's just going into a different.
So just a little plug there, because it's relevant to what Grusch just said. To people who want to know some aspects of how this works, the whole telepathy thing and psi abilities, Chris Ramsey on Area 52 just had Dr. Julia Mossbridge on his show, and I had her on my show too. She knows how this stuff works. She's done a lot of papers on it alongside other brilliant people in the field. But I would recommend you guys go check that out after this.
That's going to be a really good one. She's awesome. I'm very interested in all the work that Mossbridge is doing. This telepathy thing is it's so weird that that's also unfolding in parallel to the UFO thing. At the same, it just the amount of stuff that's happening is unbelievable.
It's hard for me to talk about the kind of. I'm sorry if you're getting a little bit of a crackle from the mic right now. That, for reference, the UK is burning and this room is extremely. Let me. There we go. That should be a bit better. I can't talk about the ontological shock that might lie behind the door without talking about what might happen with consciousness and the reality of what might happen when we die, because I think that would be monumental, like huge, and a good reason for Dr. Phil to set up a clinic somewhere, because that would be just as big as finding out that humanity was constructed from bits and pieces from around the universe. Like finding out that consciousness survives changes the way our society functions at a fundamental level, and I would understand the need for some extra services there.
I want to jump lanes here to an interview with Lance Corporal John Wygant, which was done with Stephen Greer many years ago. And Wygant was a United States Marine who was deployed in Peru in 1996, who testified to Dr. Greer in an interview that was actually recorded by James Fox, who was running camera for this. Interesting fun fact, ufology fact. Explained to him what a crash retrieval looks like and what he saw. He was a Marine that was sent to secure a crash site. When he got there, he found out it was not a terrestrial craft. It was a non-human craft. And shortly after they secured the area, a retrieval team arrives and starts recovering all the craft and bodies. And he describes the telepathic communication, which is basically the situation Grusch just told us about. So take a listen to this, and you'll hear what it sounds like from someone who experienced it.
Well, the creatures, I think, were calling me to help them. Everything was going to be all right. Then I was so mesmerized and into it, and Sergeant Allen and Atkins, they're hollering, they're cussing at me, get the hell out of there.
Why?
Well, I think I think that they were scared, and they didn't want me to get hurt. I don't know. They were real pissed off at me after subsequently. But basically, what happened was after we climbed back up, I think the DOE, Department of Energy people were there. They knew about it, and I don't know why we went there still to this day. But anyway, I was arrested. I had all my gear taken from me by men in black camis, had no name tags. They were older men, probably in their late 30s or 40s. How long was I at the site? Probably about 15, 20 minutes. We were the first people on the position. Yeah.
And then shortly you said there were other people.
Right. There were other people. I guess they were government. I don't know. They were there, and they had containment suits, and they had guys. They had a position that looked like, I don't know if it was already there or there was some gap in the jungle where they landed 2 CH-47 Chinooks. They're Army twin rotor helicopters, and they're big, and they had guys coming out in these containment suits. They must have just got there, I don't know, while we were down in the gorge, because when we climbed up, there those guys were. There were the guys in the black camis. And then they put me on a cot that they had, and they had me cuffed with those, they had me cuffed both hands down, and then they had my legs tied together with those plastic fasteners that the police use. I don't know, they're like kind of like cuffs. And then they took me in the CH-47, and they sent me to we took off, and they didn't drug me or anything like that, and I was just awake there. And
did they explain why they were treating you this way?
No, they said that that they were cussing at me, saying that I was a dumb asshole. Why don't you fucking people ever pay attention to orders, and you weren't supposed to be there, and you're not supposed to see this, and you're going to be dangerous if we let you go and all this stuff. I mean, I thought they were going to kill me for about 2 days, I think. And they had a lieutenant colonel from the Air Force, and he did not identify himself. He might have, I just don't remember. And he told me, if we just took you out in the jungle, they'd never find you out there. And I'm like, well, and I didn't want to say, I didn't want to test him to see if he'd really do that. So I said, yeah. And he's like, you got to sign these papers, and you never saw this, and I don't exist, and this situation never happened.
That interview has been one of my favorites forever. And the stuff that David Grusch said just this week makes that so much more powerful, so much more important. I'm going to link to this in the chat for people who want to watch the full interview with Wigant. I'll just put it in the chat.
It's probably one of the more detailed interactions of this nature, right? That we have on tape.
Yeah, and he describes the facility that he winds up at, where the lieutenant colonel, I guess, the Air Force guy is threatening him. He describes seeing people, Chinese people. He sees Russians. There's a lot of different nationalities speaking different languages, all working on the same project. And it sounds a lot like what Herrera mentioned when he was out in the Philippines and with his Marines and encountered these black cami guys, ninja squad guys who were like private contractors, it appears, running some bullshit out in the jungle. I wonder if what Wigant is describing is also one of those private retrieval things with some maybe DOE personnel mixed in, some private security people.
And Roderick Castle as well.
Yeah.
Those are the three very similar cases, all three of them. Did I don't know Wigand's case quite so much. Did his involve a triangle? Or at least
it was sort of
angular one.
Like a tubular egg-shaped sort of like
buried in the side of a
like a cliff. It crashed into trees and a cliff, something like that.
He said it looked like it was handmade by someone in a shop. He said it looked like a piece of art. That's its exact words. Handmade. This wasn't like something we would make. It was handmade.
It was like a UFO Ferrari of sorts, like one out of one. That's crazy.
I'll find the quote. Let's see if I can pull it up for you. Yeah, he goes. Yeah, here he goes. Check this out. Turn this volume up.
Pretty crude two-dimensional drawing, but this is jungle here, and this was the craft, and it was embedded in the rock like this. And I'm not sure if this tapered off or how it went, but these right here are the hatches. These two objects here. This one was the one that was half open, and you could see into it, but I mean, it was just black. It was like looking into a closet. 10 meters in width and about 20 meters in length. I'm just not sure. That's just an estimate from what I remember, but it was huge. I mean, it was big, man. And it was shaped like almost like between an egg and like a teardrop almost. It looked really aerodynamic, at least in the shape, but the closer I was close enough to take out detail on it, that it was not just smooth. There was bumps and, notches and things in it. It was really organic. It was almost like art. That's really how you would. It didn't look like something that somebody made in a shop. It didn't have that clunkiness or that tin can, kind of deal. It was more of art. I would say. It looked to be that it could have been handmade, but out of what and what materials, I don't know. Definitely nothing like titanium. It wasn't. See, this is the whole thing. It looked metal, but it didn't have any reflection on it, man. I mean, the sun's coming down, and if you got something made of metal, regardless of it, I mean, maybe if it's subdued with paint and it's got a cami sheen on it, you're not going to see any reflection. But I could see the different shades of the craft. They didn't shine. It just like it was it didn't reflect anything. And I guarantee if I'd thrown like a flashlight on, it wouldn't have reflected it.
It's Spinal Tap Black.
Do you think any of we'll start with craft first, but then I want to ask about aliens as well. Do you think that you have seen a video of a real craft yet?
For sure.
Do you think
Yeah.
you have? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
what about
couldn't,
a-
I couldn't tell you which one
There's-
and be 100% sure, but
There's
I know
one.
I've
There's
seen it.
one from China from the early 2000s, where it's like just I don't know if it's from the early 2000s or 2010s, but it's like emitting some kind of light to the city, and you can very clearly see a disc there, and it's yeah, and people from the military have told me before that video is legit.
And the tougher question: do you think you've seen a video of a real extraterrestrial?
No.
You don't.
Probably.
You think they keep that? You think you have?
Maybe.
There's one that I saw once that I thought it was like prosthetics, but they're like sort of operating and it's like open and all that stuff in it. But it's very different to the classic gray. It does have a big head, but the eyes are kind of jump out of the skull a little bit, and its color is like Voldemort when he's in baby form in the final Harry Potter movie. It looks just like that. It's very weird. But I was like, this is probably from a movie. It kind of seemed like it, but I don't know. That's like the most graphic thing that I've ever seen. And I don't think it was real, to be honest with you. But that UFO from China and probably the Kumburkas video, those for me seem like they're legit.
I would love to know which one. Because obviously we've all seen hundreds. I would love to know which one. And
I think some of the videos of craft are more likely real than some of the videos of bodies. Because there are you could do so much more with prosthetics and creative makeup. Like makeup effects got really good in the mid 1980s, and CGI that was convincingly able to recreate the way that these craft are described to move didn't really come around until the late 1990s. And there is a window of time in there where there are some recordings that were done on VHS camcorders or Betamax or whatever they were, depending on where people are, but they were handheld. And if you are old enough to remember watching a lot of those or owning one of those machines and recording videos that didn't have really good image stabilization, this is kind of a stretch back, but there is a signature that is distinct to those types of videos where you can see that is a real video being held by a real human hand struggling to record something that is behaving in a way that we can't fake. And I think a lot of those older videos are legit.
Mm-hmm. I always thought the Jon Stewart alien interview, out of all of them that I've seen, looked the most convincing. But then Jon Stewart last week posted the scene from Signs. And you know where
What?
it walks across?
What?
Yeah. I'm not even joking.
A scene from Signs.
Yeah, you know the home video where the kids party and it walks across. He posted.
He's just
that
taking the
saying,
piss, isn't he?
I don't know.
I think so, man. I mean, you can't be that much of a boomer to like just
He's
you
like
know.
ultimate boomer.
He's
I mean,
taking the piss, man.
I post stupid stuff all the time, and that's pretty much all I post. I've got to find some of these older videos and make a compilation because they're out there, and you really have to know where to look online to find some of these. I'm talking about some of the very first earliest uploads when people were uploading videos to the internet, like really old shit. And what confounds me, and some of this footage is in that Disney documentary, By the way, it's raining here, so if you hear rain, I'm sorry. It's just the sound in the room. I can't do anything about it. But in that Disney documentary, some of those films did make it into that, and you see a Metapod that was recorded in like 1988 or whatever it was, and it looks just like a Metapod, the one that was recorded recently, just a few years ago.
I would guess that in the 80s, late 80s, when the Black Triangle wave was happening in Belgium, I would guess that there are really good videos of that, but they're probably classified, right?
He says,
didn't Grusch in the interview with Dr. Phil say he could go onto pretty much any classified server and pull stuff that is 100 times more interesting than the stuff we're getting from the Department of War? It actually sort of brings me back to a point I wanted to make earlier. Those drops, for me at this point, they are like trying to sell a house. And if you know what that's like in the UK, you're just waiting for the solicitor to get back, the lawyer to come back with the paperwork. And it takes months and months and months for absolutely no reason. There's nothing you can do about it. You just got to deal with it. And that's basically what those drops are. It just signifies an effort that is, well, they don't have a choice, basically. They're gonna take whatever we give them because nobody else is gonna give them anything. Like, that's what I think is what the whistleblowers and what Grusch is currently up against when they talk about the resistance and stuff that they're getting. That's the resistance in full force right there, because Grusch knows better material exists. The Department of War does have access to it, and yet it's not coming out. So he knows that the Department of War isn't interested in sharing the truth right now. Hence his appeal pretty much directly to Trump at this point.
Yeah. It's pretty out front.
Yeah, job's not finished.
Yeah,
Job's not finished.
He's like, dude, it would be a phone call. And then write that release for Eric Davis. You could do both of those before lunch tomorrow. And you could, I mean, look, he's looking for a way out of the situation that he's in right now. This is your way out, dude.
Situation is exactly right, bro.
It's a situation. It really is. And if you don't do something to get out of it, this is going to be, people are going to remember Iran as the big fucking joke.
Yeah, and an Epstein class president too.
Yeah,
That's
Epstein and Iran. That's your legacy.
Yeah.
Or you can be the UFO guy. I mean,
Just
that's
makes you wonder what is going on that makes him so reluctant, it seems, to do it, or the fact that he maybe has a very specific plan to get it out. I don't know, but he could have done it a couple of months ago, but he hasn't done it. So what is holding him back at this point? Does he just not have the evidence to share?
What was the thing, Pavel? Did you see there was a post I saw yesterday that said that the White House had issued a shoot down order for UFOs directly from the Trump?
Yep, that's I think what Ross Coulthart reported last Sunday, and which is a follow up to the stuff that I was investigating, and I didn't know exact details on it. The claims Ross Coulthart made are pretty out there, and they need to be either denied or corroborated, because it's he says that Trump has his own crash retrieval team, essentially, with directed energy technology and also probably psionics, and it's happening in the same airspace that Skywatcher was operating, hinting that probably Jake Barber and Skywatcher are involved. So yeah, it's pretty out there. And Grusch just mentioned that same event in White Sands. That's what he alluded to. So he's aware of that as well. Yeah.
And didn't it allegedly happen basically a little while after Skywatcher went dark last year?
Yeah, it was Skywatcher went dark in July, and then there was an event from ODNI that was reported and released in one of the batches of UFO files. There's a report from an FBI officer, another one from an ODNI officer, that like they had orbs like 20, 30 yards away from a helicopter, and they saw that with their own eyes and they reported on it. That happened in December. The one that I was tracking happened right after the airspace was closed in February this year, and in El Paso. And they closed it for a few hours. They said that they were going to close it for 10 days. I don't know where that came from. Maybe they were, I don't know. That was weird. But the airspace near White Sands remains closed to this day. And what I was getting is that there was still ongoing activity in that area related to this. So, yeah, I don't know if it's true though, but that's the reporting.
They have their own shoot down and retrieval team.
Yeah.
Wow.
I bet it's got such a good name. I wonder if it's got a website. Yeah. TrumpRetrieval.com.
I guess that's Pursue, right?
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I guess so. Is this better with the background noise? I don't know if this sounds any better. Here we go. This is one example of a video it
just makes no sense, and it's like really old.
That's a metallic disc.
Yep.
Look at the bottom. It's spinning.
Dude, even though it's grainy, it's 1,000 times better than anything we've seen from the Department of War.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Crazy.
The Department of War's camera systems and stuff that they have on military hardware now is insane.
8K.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, probably like 16K at this point, and yet we're to believe that these just dots. It's not even the direct video. It's like videos of people taking videos of screens, and that's the best they've got. Come on.
That's what I'm saying.
We know that's not the case.
It's all bullshit, and I think he knows it. He's calling it.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan Shinobi says, thanks for the super chat. I'm currently reading Not for Disclosure by Jonathan Kaplan, one of the UK's premier barristers and King's Counsel. So far, I'd say it's the best book I've read recently to get muggles up to speed. Great recommendation.
Yeah, that dude, I mean, we talked about this barrister. That position is basically a judge in the UK, right?
Judge or a lawyer. Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, he apparently had contact with the royal family, with Prince Philip. He was giving him reports back in the day that before they made it to a UFO publication that he was a part of, he was writing for it too. He first took the most interesting cases to the prince for interviews. And I don't know if he kept any material from that, or if he was even in the interviews, but that's what he claims to have done. So he was very much aware of what was going on in the highest spheres, like in royalty and all that. So, it should be an interesting read.
Speaking of that, this is a good segue to the Bigelow interview, episode 2 of the Bigelow podcast with George Knapp. He talks about a photograph that someone asked him about in his office, and listen to how he explains. Where is this? Here we go. Let me get my screen up here. Here we go.
Any minute now.
Any minute now. Any minute now. Okay, here we go. This is really it.
This time.
You suck. Here we go.
Just looking like an alien, and
some of these are cool because they're fun.
Yeah.
It makes people laugh, and it's not to be taken seriously, and so they're kind of fun.
And it's funny what people will notice. they notice this photo right here in the background, and they'll comment on it on social media.
There's actually an interesting story behind that photo.
Let's
and
hear
the
it.
gathering. That's a photo of a group of us that Lawrence Rockefeller convened at the Rockefeller Ranch, right at the base of the Grand Teton mountain range in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And we were there to discuss the pros and cons of his position on disclosure way back then. That was a long time ago. Linda Howe was there, John Mack was there, Bruce Maccabee, a number of other folks were there that are well known. And his take was to convince the president, which at the time was Bill Clinton, that he needed to step up and produce the disclosure that was necessary about the phenomena and admit that it exists. I wasn't sure that he knew, that the president knew. So I had my good friend, Harry Reid. In fact, I was more than just speculating. I had kind of proof, because Hubble, which you mentioned his name yesterday,
right,
wrote a book, and in that book, it revealed something that Clinton had said. So I said to Harry, I said, look, I want you to take this book and show it to Bill and say, did you really say this? And in there, it said, President Clinton had said, before I leave office, I want to know who really killed JFK. And what is all this UFO ET stuff all about? And Harry said, did you really say that? Yes. And he said, wouldn't you like to know? Well, Harry had sat in on many of our meetings for NIDS, numerous times. And so he already had a feel for what's going on, because we had world-class people in that room. We had people from agencies, we had military people, we had terrific researchers, people that worked at Los Alamos. We had every category you can think of. Astronauts. We had Edgar Mitchell and Jack Schmidt there. We had a military Air Force general there. We had Ian Stevenson was there, and Bruce Grayson was there, and Emily Cook was there. Jessica Utz was there. And so we had Marty Pilch and others that were directors of Los Alamos, and Christopher Green, Hal Puthoff, Jacques Vallée was there. So we had the cream of the crop of thinkers, on the subjects of the two big ones. Are we alone? And what happens to you after you die? Right?
Oh my God. Jay Rockefeller pulls together this group of people to try and convince Bill Clinton to go forward with disclosure. And Bigelow is a part of this, tied in with all of this other.
Wasn't Greer in that picture too? I think so, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
He doesn't get mentioned a lot.
Yeah.
What do you think Greer thinks about all this? He's been
That
saying
it's
this
a
a lot of
psyop.
this stuff for years.
That it's a psyop.
But what Grusch is saying is a lot of the same stuff that Greer's been saying.
Yeah, but he's been essentially countering every single claim that comes from any government person, Greer. That's what he's been doing, really.
Jerk.
I don't care.
Somebody in the chat just reminded me we didn't show the wink wink moment.
Oh, the wink wink. Hang on.
Yeah,
Wasn't it the Darth Vader one? No.
No. There was another one.
I missed it. I thought that's what you were referring
I'm gonna
to.
try and.
I know where it is.
No.
I know
got
where
it.
it is. Yep.
I thought this was fascinating.
Yep. Here we go. You ready for this one? Here we go. This is awesome.
For the seed that we don't understand, but into society to help us and to also fuel different economies and whatnot.
Oh, let me back up a little
some
bit.
Of the
He
fruits
makes
of our labor, so to speak. And there was a lot of programs that once again, I thought we were defrauding the American taxpayer, because you have a certain smorgasbord of classified programs reported to Congress, and then Congress authorizes and appropriates funds to fund said programs. But then you have this carved out base of technology that is sequestered, and a lot of it has civil application that would, help humanity. And I have to be careful not to infer certain technologies that are unacknowledged by the federal governments. But there's a lot of things that I see civil application and that could be responsibly introduced into society to help us, and to also fuel different economies and whatnots. And yes, the closest galaxy, I think it's M31, Andromeda, like you said. However, within our own galaxy, there's extrasolar planets around other nearby stars. But I do caution to ascribe this whole phenomenon as merely just extraterrestrial. That's certainly a piece of the pie. That's likely what some of this is. But there's other, taxonomies of anomalous intelligences, we'll call it, that perhaps it's ultra terrestrial. Perhaps it grew up here and it left and it came back. And there's shadow biome. There's other types of origins. There's under the sea that we don't understand 70% of our oceans, and what advanced intelligence might have developed on the seabed, so to speak. Wink, wink. And so there's a lot of different things that this.
He's like, look here, guys, please look here.
Yeah.
I thought, based on like other things we know, that makes me think we're not alone on this island. Like there's something, something's been cooking whilst we've been chilling on land. Something's been cooking beneath the waves.
Yeah.
And it's probably done a better job than we've done. And it stays down there for very specific reasons, because it's safe down there. It's safe from pretty much everything we do.
Yeah. He's saying there's more than one thing going on, but specifically this is one of the things that's going on. Right?
Yeah.
Because earlier he said there are a lot of different types of bodies that are, different shapes and different designs. Craft 2.
The reference, somebody's asked, the reference of "We're not alone on this island" was from Jurassic Park 2, actually. But anyway.
That's great. That's a deep track. Deep
track. It is, yeah. Yeah, I don't know how far we can go into that, but it's not the first time I've heard, let's call it like a parallel species on planet Earth.
I mean,
that has done well.
If you put two and two together between this interview and the Dylan Borland interview and what he had contact with, the guys that he spoke to that deal with historical kind of things and artifacts and all that stuff, I mean, they're kind of alluding to a past civilization that was really advanced, probably.
I think there are enough instances of that taking place now, and to be honest, it even lends more credence to Bob Lazar, who mentioned archaeological digs years and years and years ago. So, and of course we've had the whole pyramids were built by aliens trope going on since I've been alive. So,
yep.
Yeah, I think at this point there is no smoke without fire for me, and I think that's one of the shocking things, is that these things, or at least some of them, have been living in our backyard, and they don't want to hang out with us. Why do they want to play?
That would be tricky. I could see that one being a tough one. Because what if the deal is, look, once we are known, we're gonna kind of take charge. Yeah. We don't like the way you're running things, and it's our planet too. So, guess what?
Or we were here first as well. Or even we made you.
Can you imagine? Listen to what he says next. Just This we're not even at the best part yet.
They're going to have to get eyes on to those facilities. There is a program protection strategy, unfortunately, to move movable archives and materials if they feel like the location has been burned or exposed. That's exactly what some of these CIA programs did during the Church Pike era. So that's not a kind of a conspiracy theory. So up until a couple years ago, I was aware of U.S. government facilities and contractor facilities that both had the documentation and the material holdings and the cadavers, mind you. But once again, I'm out of the biz. I don't have a mole at that facility anymore that can tell me on August 11th, 2026, it's still there, unfortunately. And that's just my own limitation. However, I certainly know what the president was briefed on in his previous, term, and certainly what, Secretary Rubio was briefed on as well, and what was given to the ICIG and whatnot. And so it's up to them to do a search and seizure activity at those locations and also depose witnesses that have that information. So once again, if I ever got summoned, I would solve this very quickly and call up the A-team for the president if he wanted to get control of this issue. But some of it will have to be this process of identifying where things have been moved, unfortunately, which is a unfortunate reality.
They've said a lot of things about you. They've attacked your character. They've done a lot of different things, but they haven't proven you wrong.
No.
That's yet to occur, and I guess it's hard to prove a negative. But I guess my question to you is if the president said, okay, Dr. Phil, with or without cameras, whatever, if David knows where these things are and gave me the clearance to accompany you there, you have the ability to take me to where we could see a craft and a cadaver somewhere, somehow. You believe you could?
Oh yeah, we could take a little field trip out west, we'll say. Yeah, and we could certainly go to those facilities. So.
And you believe there would still be something at one of these places that we would be able to actually see, knock on, something three-dimensional that's there.
Yeah. Sometimes certain things are hard to move. When they're particular size, it's a little bit laborious to move. So I think there's some locations that likely are untouched, because I'll be very vague on that. Not to spook the herd.
Yeah.
Do you think that seemed prearranged to me? Like,
yeah,
that he knew that was the response there, and that perhaps it's not about Dr. Phil going to that place, but potentially somebody else.
Imagine the photo opportunity.
Who's going to stop? Yeah, who's going to stop?
Lenny, millions of registered voters. Ghostbusters. It would be the story of a lifetime. It would be the only thing big enough to take over the entire news cycle around the world for days, weeks. You could drag it out as long as you want, really, because once you say that aliens are real, you could literally say, well, we have a national emergency now. I guess I'm going to have to be president forever. Someone's got to deal with this.
Please, God, no.
I'm not under the thumb of big ET.
Don't say that, please. His term should be over, and then the next. Like, I don't care who it is. Just let's respect democracy a little bit,
But hypothetically, they'd get another bite at the apple. If he says no, how dumb would he feel if the Democrats win and AOC becomes the president who does disclosure?
Yeah.
Imagine that. Or whoever. I'm not saying it has to be AOC. It could be anybody. Gavin Newsom. Whatever.
I mean, Gavin is already acting like he's Trump. He It's a troll move against Trump. He does all the all caps messages and brags about himself, and he started doing it like a few months ago. It's really funny.
It is funny, but it's like, man,
So
I think people, if there's one huge lesson we can all take away from this, is that politics are exhausting. And if we can just find one thing to unite over that's not political, maybe this could be that thing. And maybe if we could all just agree to not get weird about this, we could see it through. And whoever is the disclosure person is the disclosure person. Ultimately, it's about getting past that and on to the next thing. And we could do that. You know, that's a test of are we really ready for this? If we can get through this without politicizing it, maybe we are ready for it.
what do you think is next after this interview with Grusch? Do you think there is I'm sure there is a next thing planned. I just don't know what it is. I could ask around, but I'm not sure I'd even be told, because I respect why I can't be told some things.
Well, he's escalated the conversation to the point of saying, I have audio-visual evidence, and I'm all but ready to just release that.
Do you think he has it still?
Sounded like
or
he
do you
does.
think he was shown it?
Says it was exfiltrated.
Mm.
And this is one where definitely everyone watching this, go watch the full interview all the way through and just really read between the lines and look at the way his body language communicates what he's really trying to say. And he's basically saying, like, look, I'm the guy who actually has the goods on this. A phone call and I'll be in the White House tomorrow. We can solve this, and I can hand you on a silver platter the most amazing opportunity ever. And if you really want to get out of the situation you're in, this is your way out. And he's hoping that Stephen Miller is going to be smart enough to pick up on that and see that through. And he's hoping also that Dr. Phil is going to be able to get through to Trump, I think.
Well, yeah, definitely.
You know, but
he even said in the interview, didn't he, that if he was put in the right position, he'd be able to solve this extremely quickly. I'm sure that was a phrase sort of towards the end. I'm sure we don't have a timestamp. It was only a little phrase anyway. But yeah, he basically said, "Give me the job, and I'll just fix this."
He said it earlier. He said, in a day, I could go on the classified network and pull down everything you need to see that would convince you beyond the shadow of a doubt. And it's just what we're seeing is bullshit. And he's saying that. See, in this one video, he's made all of those statements. He's like, I know where the bodies are buried. I know where the shit is. I will take you there. It is, let's go on a road trip. I think we get Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp. Who else?
The Doomer crew. Let's all
go. The Doomer crew. David Grusch.
Just go do a live stream from the massive buried UFO that's clearly out there somewhere that they can't move. I don't know. Like, maybe that is inside baseball, but I don't know.
Oh, can you imagine? imagine if for a period of time the whole world focused on one event and it was just the number one thing on everyone's mind, and you saw like hundreds at first and then thousands of people gathering around this site and parking their RVs and cars, and it turns into like this giant fucking media thing. Because that's where it is. And we know it. We feel like we've got enough of a beat on it that it's right there. And then the pressure is really on. Will the president say something? When is it going to happen? The time is running out. The clock's ticking, you know. After November, all bets are off. Unless the Republicans manage to hang in there. It's going to lose a lot of power. Yep. So we're talking about, a couple of weeks here.
Yeah, a few weeks. Yeah, just 2 more weeks.
Oh man,
it lands differently when David says these things.
It does,
because I think he holds back strategically and then when he talks, it carries a lot more.
And it hits properly.
Yeah.
It hits in the way it's supposed to. It's not Stephen Greer saying he's going to storm Area 51 with a SEAL team. Yeah.
You don't need a SEAL.
I don't know what happens next. I don't know how you escalate the rhetoric before providing some evidence at this point. I think the community rightly will start asking for some sort of evidence to back up those claims. I think that's completely realistic to expect. I don't think it's unreasonable. Whether or not we get it, I don't know. But
I think it's also really interesting, the picture as it begins to clarify for us a little bit what the pieces of this puzzle actually look like. And you have a executive branch that is like in they're sort of lost in their own world where they don't have awareness of this program, or they're aware of it, but they don't have enough information to act on it really. Or maybe they do, but they're kind of just not central to it, but they could be. And then you've got these people from inside the program who are working through their intermediaries like Grusch to get the word out, smuggling out information, trying to get it to this president so that he can just do the paperwork, really, that's standing between them and a whole new paradigm. And then you've got these opaque corporate groups and aerospace companies that have got, according to him, archives and archives of material that they've collected over all of these years on different types of beings, where they're from, what their technology is designed to do. He describes the craft as like completely different, but more or less the same in terms of functionality. Like, you know, all cars have wheels and an engine. It's sort of like that. But aside from that, there's a lot of variety from one to the next. And it indicates a much larger picture that's just beyond the veil.
It really backs up what the 4chan whistleblower said as well.
We should do a deep dive revisit of that.
Yeah, we can do that next
That'd
week.
be a good one.
I will pull the core claims and we can take a look at them versus what the current understanding is. Be fun. It's good to do every now and then, especially with the 4chan whistleblower, because I mean I did it last year, towards the end of last year, and yeah, it's kind of insane how uncanny what he was saying I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, how it makes sense now is pretty uncanny.
Yeah. And if we're talking about under the ocean stuff, like one of the things that wasn't the claim in there that these craft, there's a central facility that manufactures craft under the ocean.
The hamburger. It's just like, it's shaped like a hamburger. It's just a gigantic base that nobody can get near. Like, you go near it, you just get vaporized.
Whoa.
And it's in the Atlantic, near Bermuda, I think. So we also have the possibility that there's multiple, which is what Burchett thinks there are, and there's one off the west coast as well. But yeah, I think maybe there's a few of these things.
Maybe we can get Ramsey and Gerb to talk about it next week.
Yeah,
as well.
Maybe
That'd be cool.
Marked Semiotics, our friend at Marked Semiotics, Cole, asks, what are the odds Trump wants to retrieve his own UAP to hold on to power?
Very high.
I think it would be very valuable if you had one. And I think he's probably the type of guy who would be like, well, you know what? I'm just going to keep this one myself. I've got a place. We'll store it at my place. I don't need anybody else to watch it for me. I could see that. But I think what is also likely is that he could make the announcement, and then in light of the new situation, declare a state of emergency and suspend the election and then say, look, until we get a handle on what's going on, we can't have any elections because we don't know what the fuck is going on. So we're just going to lock everything down and until we get a better handle on things. I could see that.
What do you think? If that does happen, will people look at podcasts like this and say you were right, or will they say you were just lucky because it was bound to happen eventually anyway?
Oh, like we called it correctly on disclosure?
That UFOs, the whole thing. I always wonder, like, what happens if disclosure does happen. Do people sort of look at podcasts like these and Pavel's and mine and say, you just talked about like all of ufology, so you were bound to be right in some sense. But to me, it feels like we're really on to something, like we're actual conspiracy theorists where we're connecting the dots and stuff. And it feels like if disclosure does happen, then we are genuinely, we were here first. Like we really did figure it out. And we weren't just clutching at straws, and disclosure, when it does happen, is unrelated to anything we think. I always just wonder whether or not how the value of conversations like this will change after disclosure.
Well, I don't think that everybody's gonna feel like that who is part of ufology, because each person has a different, very subjective idea of what disclosure is. So if we judge by how the UFO community gets along, which is not very often, whatever happens, it is just going to satisfy a select few, and the majority is not going to be happy because it's not going to be what they envision as the truth. And that's it's sad, but it's the reality. It's never going to appease the majority ever.
I think on that, we should probably wrap it up and call it a week. This is a high note to end it on. We got some really interesting news this week, guys. This is it's moved the needle for me. What do you guys think?
Huge. Yeah, I really do think it was big. Arguably for me as big as the last hearings that we had.
Yeah. It feels like we're really in it now. I don't see it going back the other way. It'll be interesting to see if Lou responds with anything in the next couple of days here, or what Stephen Greer has to say.
Man, I just hope that this is followed up by action and some of that evidence. That's the only thing that we need now. Like, and I think that what Dave said yesterday was very powerful. I think that we were hoping for him to say something like this for a long time. I think that I think UFO Joe found a little inconsistency in Grusch's interview with Joe Rogan, where he made it seem like a lot of what he was exposed to was secondhand. And that happened in 2023. People who are complaining about that specific inconsistency, they make it seem like Grusch hasn't been investigating this since at all. Like, he must have found a lot of new stuff over the last 3 years. He's been working on this. That's all he's been doing for the last 3 years since that interview. So, you know,
as a public-facing person, the guy is now getting people coming to him, like all the time.
Yep.
I also think that he has maintained such a high standard of character within the larger UFO community. I think people respect it when he speaks, and I think they respect him enough to listen. So at the highest levels of power, he definitely has people that are paying attention to what he has to say. So this is like a really interesting video in the sense of a time capsule of how he's trying to communicate with people in the administration through these videos that are going back and forth at this really critical moment. And And we're here for it. This was the whole point of starting a UFO podcast, right? Like for all of us, was to be here for this. If we only have to be right once. And I'm willing to be patient and wait it out, because I'm confident now that David Grusch is sitting on the goods and he is going to deliver at some point. He is just trying to do the right thing right now. We're going through a checklist.
Yeah, I think he's presenting opportunities for it to happen in the right way, but if nobody listens, he's more than willing to do what's right. Which is really probably. I think he's in the same camp as us, that he thinks it's a fundamental right for us to know some very basic things about ourselves, and they don't have the right to withhold that from us.
Well, if it goes through before the November elections, that would be amazing, and that would be so fast. If it doesn't go through by then they get another bite at the apple for the presidential election, when you've got the primaries for both parties and then the general election. So there'll be an opportunity there to elevate this conversation again before a whole new slate of candidates, and I don't think it goes away, even if it doesn't happen right now. So Trump's opportunity here is to just take this get out of jail card and run with it. I think that's what they're trying to tell him. So hopefully he gets the message. All right, We'll wrap it there. That's our time this week, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks to everybody in the chat for participating. The chat was on fire today. You guys are crazy. It looks like the majority of you felt that this did move the needle. So that's really good to hear. I'm glad that you guys are on board like we are. This is an exciting time to be a part of all this, and it's a great time to be here together with you. So thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't already, consider subscribing, please. It just takes a second, doesn't cost a dime, and it's the best way to help all of us grow whatever channel you're watching this on, and that's really important so that we can keep doing it. Don't forget to like and share, leave us a comment, let us know what you think of everything that we talked about today, and we will see you again next week. Take care of yourselves and keep looking up.